Thank you, Joanna, and hello from the RAB. RAB is the acronym for the Rock Art Butte team, which has been involved with Scotland's Rock Art project. Several of the team worked with Tertia and the Arkhams crew during Scotland's Rural Past project, and when Tertia announced the Rock Art project, we were very keen to get involved. The first slide I'd like to show you is our Rock Art RAB team. Over to you, Pat. There we are. Isabel, second top left, is our team leader. Then Jessica and Pat Jessica is the one who knows where all the stones are, and Pat is the photographer. Barbara and Neil are the ones who've updated all the information, and the rest of us are just hewers of wood and drawers of water, but we do our bit to keep the thing going. So what and where is Bute? Well, we are an island in the Firth of Clyde, and to confirm this, here is the next slide to show exactly where we are and where we are in relation to the rest of the west of Scotland. We are fairly close to Kilmartin, which in the days of sea travel was so much more accessible than it is now by land. I think we've got another slide coming up. There it is there. We're right beside the Cowal Peninsula, Kintyre and Loch Fyne there beside Portabarry, going up to Loch Goilhead, Loch Gilphead and Kilmartin. So we are very central to this part of Scotland where all the rock art exists. Before man arrived on the scene, all those hundreds of thousands of years ago, Bute looked rather like this, with nothing on it whatsoever. But after he came down the water or across the sea from Ireland, Bute began to look rather like this. So this is but a smattering of the sites of kists, of marked stones, of cairns, of circles and everything else. So you see there is a wealth of relics from Mesolithic, from Neolithic, from Bronze Age and every other age lying around the island of Bute for anyone who cares to come along and investigate. Many of the cup mark stones are already known about and even recorded on Canmore. But since the project began, Jessica and Pat have greatly added to this number, which when added to the undoubted numbers still undiscovered, means there was an awful lot of cup marking going on the island back in the day. Jessica has spent her life exploring Bute and the nearby of Inchmarnock, where in fact she lived and was brought up for many years, and her knowledge has been invaluable to the project. Much of the written information, as I said, has been entered into by Barbara and Neil, but it is Pat O'Sullivan who has been the man who took on the mantle of photographer and photogrammeter, and it is he who's done all the work of uploading the photos into the system. So there is no better person, therefore, than Pat O'Sullivan to take over this presentation and show some of the archaeological jewels that we have on the island of Bute. Over to you, Pat.
Thanks, Donald, for that super introduction to Bute and the team. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. I think I've preempted the panelists in my presentation is going to be more about the overview of Bute and why Neolithic man arrived here. And in tribute to Nick Parrish, saying you can look at the rock art, but you need to take it in context and look around. So in order to see that, you can see from the map here that we've got a fault line running straight through the island. So the geology of Bute, as you can see from the map, the blue area in the north is mainly metamorphic Dalriadian schists. The yellow area below the Highland fault line is mainly old red sandstone, and the southern tip is made of igneous lava and sills, with basalt columns similar to that found in Antrim, Northern Ireland. So about 20,000 years ago, during the Ice Age, the sea was about 120 meters lower than at present. And as the ice melted, the sea rose to about 30 meters higher than at present. But because of the weight of the ice, Bute was approximately 150 meters lower than at present. So as the ice melted, Bute's landmass rose quicker than the rising sea. So during the initial few thousand years after the the sea melted, Butte fell from 30 meters above present to just 7 meters above present levels. So during that part of the ice melting period, say 12,000 years ago, Butte would have consisted of 4 islands. So, sorry, I'll go back there just so you can point out the islands. So between these 2 bays, that area would be submerged, leaving the north tip as an island. And then between the fault line and the other island, we have another. So there's 4 islands, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's quite important to see why man settled here, sort of to recognize the caves that formed because of the melting ice. So because of the high sea levels caused by the melting ice, a lot of Butte's coastline have raised beaches, and particularly in the south of the island, have a lot of caves formed by the sea in the old red sandstone. These caves, some of which have been excavated, have shown signs of human habitation, possibly during the Neolithic age. So as well as that, there's monuments on Butte. So in this slide, I've tried to show some of the known standing stones on the island and their distribution. They range from single upright columns to a circle of 8 columns. There was another stone circle 25 meters west of St. Colmack's cottage. So the top left here is a stone circle of 8 columns. But there was another stone circle 25 meters west of that, there's no visible trace. It was described in 1816 as a circle of great size and height, but they were all thrown down, most of them removed. Some of them were so large as to be blown with powder. An earlier state map shows an arc of 5 stones to the west of the current circle. So there's just a selection of the monuments that we have on Butte, and I've tried to indicate on the map where different monuments are located. So these are most of the Neolithic sites for the rock art are in the north at Glenvoyden, Ettrick and Skerrill, but there are other sites in the south of the island that Neolithic man has been here. So as Donald has already indicated, most of the sites in the north, but the townhead settlement in the centre of the map was excavated in between 1912 and 1919, and again in 1954. And this settlement was discovered while excavating a gravel pit on an ancient raised bed. And you wouldn't believe how high that site is to believe that it was submerged by water. We found 25 panels in Glenvoyden, and we've lots more to discover, I'm sure. The map shows that panels taken from the Rock Art Project's website. So as you can see, there's a large concentration at Glenvoyden in the north of the island. And practically every time the team goes up to do some searching, we find another panel. Another concentration is at Skerrill and Drumocloy. We've recorded 16 panels in this area, and we know from the farmer there that because of all the land drainage that was carried out, a lot of the panels would have been used as infill in the drainage ditches. So when they were doing the drainage, he's just bamboozled through the rock art and just buried them. And that seems a bit typical for the island, to be honest. Again, in the Ettrick Burn, during the 1980s, over 11 panels were found between 100 metre and the 150 metre contour by a farmhand. We suspect, really we know, they've been repurposed and used elsewhere. So stone's a valuable commodity when you're building a platform. So zero carbon Butte. During this past year, with the COVID-19 restrictions in place, the recording and photographing of the panels continued. It was a case of get on your bike, as car sharing was not allowed. And it was disappointing that we were not out as a team, but out on our own to record the rock art. So as you can see, it was an onerous task going all around the island recording these panels, but hell, someone's got to do it. I'm sure you've cut marked and ring marked out by now, but as Donald has mentioned, I'm the team's photographer and I've been with the team from the start of the project. My role is making the 3D photogrammetry models using the Agisoft Metashape software, then using MeshLab software to view the 3D models, and by applying different renders and varying the lighting to reveal the very faintest markings. The 3D photography modeling has been a new experience to me, and it was always fascinating watching the hidden details for appearing for the first time for 1,000 years. I then upload the models to Sketchfab, which is a public 3D model sharing site, and to the Rock Art Project's website. Here are a few examples of Butte's rock art from left to right: Kilbride, Glenvoyden 13, Glenvoyden 9, Kilwinlock 7, Windy Hill, and Dunhill of Glenmore. There have been 6 excavated chambered tombs on Bute, 3 with round cairns at Gletna Bay, Hilton, and Michaelsgrave, and a later trapezoidal cairn at Glenvoyden, which incorporates an earlier round cairn. There have been 2 sites with long cairns at Bicker Houses and Cairn Barn. All the excavated cairns fall within Henshall's 1972 Clyde Group. The Gletna Bay cairn was built on a Mesolithic shell midden, which is quite rare, I believe, in Scotland. So top left, we've got Glenvoyden, top right, Gletna Bay, bottom left, Michaelsgrave, and bottom right, Cairn Barn. Bollockheddon cairn. This slide just gives an impression of a now removed cairn. So the next slide was described as an immense cairn of some 20 feet high, which was only a portion of a larger cairn, which was used as a convenient quarry. In 1858, when the stones were being removed, it was found to contain 18 kists, each about 30 inches square, some containing black dust, in others sepulchral urns, which were laid bare around the circumference of the cairn. In the centre of the cairn, a kist of about 30 inches square and contained dark, apparently burnt ashes, together with a rudely ornamental urn, of which, when being handled, broke into fragments. This was an eyewitness account of the stones being removed to build a seawall. So we may not have a cairn, but we've got a beautiful seawall. We thought we'd struck gold with this panel. The old red sandstone bedrock located to the south end of the island, near Donegal. A known Neolithic site, Donegal was a known Neolithic site. A team member had found 2 flint shards while we were cleaning the panel. And as we have no natural source of flint on the island, our hopes were raised. Tertia invited a geologist, Ewan Hislop, and Eileen Tisdall, an environmental paleontologist, to examine the panel. And to our dismay, they both decided that the markings were probably the result of the outcrop being submerged during the Ice Age and subjected to sea erosion. It just goes to show that all that glitters is not gold. And that panel again is quite high up, as you can see from the photography. You'd never believe that that was below water during the Ice Age. We can't talk about Bute without mentioning the basalt outcrop of Donegal. That's the centre of the photograph here. It's below the tip of Arran. The site was excavated in 1913 by Dr. John Marshall, and again, Ludwig Mann. There are at least 2 kists and several mounds in the valley by Donegal. So the cave on the left, which is 20 foot high and 66.5 foot long, there was a shell midden deposit at the entrance of between 4 and 6 foot deep and extended 25 foot into the cave. In the fort above the cave, a similar deposit was found to suggest that they were both inhabited at the same time. The entrance to the cave is 25 foot above sea level, and finds included stone axe heads, stone hammers or pounders, antlers with skull fragments showing saw marks, rings of stone, some perforated, polishing stone, hammerstone, whetstone, and tools. Finds. Finds include jet lignite collars, one at Inchmarnock and another at Mount Stewart, and a jet bead at Little Donegal. That was thanks to a mole digging one up. Socketed axe heads, polished axe heads, carinated bowl with a round bottom, mace heads, cherts, scrapers, flints, agate artifacts, grains of barley and vessels, food vessels, charcoal and charred hazelnuts, sharpening stones, thin dark pottery, round base bowls, leaf-shaped arrowhead, flint arrowheads, sherds from several pots, flint blades, and a stone mace with an hourglass perforation. To conclude, I would like to thank the trustees of Bute Museum and the Natural History Society for purchasing and providing the team with a laptop to use on the project. I couldn't have managed without it, and to Tertia for all the support for the team during the project. And as you can see from the screen, there are 141 panels have been recorded for Bute. And I say this because when this presentation were made, we found others. We've discovered 40 new panels, and that's an increase of the known panels on Bute by around 40% from when the project started. And what we've learned that the panels were not only visible for a very short time, some possibly to do with spiritual belief. Some were moved to their present positions. A sea vista features in most panels, and usually water burns roundabout. How little is known about them by the local population. And I think we need to share our knowledge of the stones with schools and visitors. Good bits and bad bits. The excitement of discovering a new panel, especially one with things visiting parts of the rings, visiting parts of the island less travelled. The beautiful views on a sunny day, not so nice on a cold and wet winter's day. The thought of modelling, your 3D modelling when you get back home. If you've just found 5 panels and you want to spend the rest of the week modelling them. Challenges, it's not so easy to record the panels in the middle of a field of cows, although I must stress that no animals were hurt in the recording of these panels. The bracken and gorse in the summer covers everything. Don't trust Canmore, especially for directions. Despite the inclement weather, I wish I'd done more recording photography in winter project, in the winter with the project's timescale. And I think the team have all agreed that we'd like to carry on. So I'd now like to hand you over to Donald to give his conclusion.
Great, Pat. Thank you very much indeed for that. So there you have it, an overview not only of the rock art and Bute that we have been examining and recording, but also some of Bute's other archaeological assets. So many thanks to Pat for all his photogrammetry work, but also for all the miles that he has pedalled round the island in fair weather and in foul, so in search, mostly successfully, for these elusive cut-mark stones. Thanks to the rest of the team for braving the elements, and to Isabel MacArthur, our coordinator, who phoned, emailed, and cajoled us to turn out and then turn out again to go and hunt for these stones. To Jessica Herriot, she has already been mentioned, but really without her amazing knowledge and nose for where long lost stones or indeed new ones might be, this survey would have been far less successful. And finally, to Tertia, without whose enthusiasm this countrywide survey would never really have got started. Thank you, Tertia. It has been an experience we will never forget and has greatly enlarged the knowledge of Bute and of Scotland's rock art. So farewell from the Bute rock art team. Thank you for listening, and we leave you with a fitting picture of the sun sinking slowly in the west over Kilcatton Bay. Thank you from Bute.
Thank you very much, Donald and Pat. That was really, really interesting, and I really enjoyed the kind of wider overview of what is going on in the island. So I'm definitely looking forward to go there at some point again and look at all the things that you've highlighted. We have actually we have just a minute for questions. I don't know if anybody wants to pop a question in the chat, but I was wondering, in terms of I'm really always amazed at how many sites you keep recording and finding, and I have to say that my talk that I will be delivering later is already out of date, because obviously you have more sites now that I did not include in my analysis. But I was just wondering, how did the project or your work with Scrap meet your expectations in terms of Butte's rock art?
Well, I wish I had more background knowledge when I started, because I was completely new to photogrammetry, completely new to rock art, completely new to the recording sheets that were given from Tertia. And of course, while we were having the demonstration day to show you how to record the panels, I was involved with the photography, so I didn't really get involved with the recording sheets. So I think that it's gone very well, but you know, you need to be in a year later, because you start in a winter's day and you're on a hill and it's blowing a gale. It's not so easy to sort of get the finesse. You need the experience. Now, should the rock art project start again, I'm really up to speed now. So it was just slow going. What do you think, Donald?
Yeah, I think it has certainly shown that there are so much more on the island than we first thought about and was ever recorded. So I think it has been a great benefit to the people in Bute, is given us a bit more encouragement to continue with the project afterwards. But it has been an insight to what there is. I mean, as with Pat, I was totally unaware of the amount of rock art there was around here. But it has been an eye-opener to me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And it has just been surprising how much more there is on the island. As you say, Joanna, not just of rock art, but a whole lot of other stuff as well. So
I would add, though, it's a blessing that we could share the photogrammetry because it was in-house.
yes,
The whole team got to see all the panels as they were processed. So it was really inclusive, that, I think.
and hopefully we'll be able to put this on a panel and display in the museum so more folk can see what there is available and what photogrammetry does and how well it magnifies what there is on stones and what you don't really see with the naked eye.
Indeed. And I suppose that from now, from the knowledge that you have gathered and your experience, you can even kind of use some of the tools that were discussed during the workshops and perhaps carry on with your work and do something even bigger there for Bute.
Exactly.
Yes, I am concerned, though, that since we've been doing the project, the number of panels that have actually disappeared while we've been doing them, because of, you know, these are in fields that farmers work in and they move stones and they're not sort of historic monuments. You know, if a farmer's got a field of sheep and he wants to move one of the panels, then there's not a lot we can do to stop him.
That's right. Anyway, thank you very much, Pat and Donald, once again. A round of applause for you. And thank you for your contribution.